You see, if you have big goals, they motivate you, they stimulate you, they excite you, they enthuse you. If you have no goals at all, you just go around in circles. What we have found is that goals are the fuel in the furnace of achievement. You have big goals, and the more you work on the goals and the more you feel yourself progressing toward them, the better you feel, the more positive you feel, the more momentum you develop, and the more you feel yourself to be unstoppable. You see, without goals, you're easily stopped because you don't know what you want. H.L. Hunt, the great oil billionaire, was once asked his secrets of success, and he said there's basically two requirements for success in America. Only two. He said, first of all, decide exactly what you want. Most people never do that. Second of all, he said, determine the price you're going to have to pay to get it, and then start paying it. Earl Nightingale said that happiness is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. The very most dependable way to keep yourself positive and happy and motivated is to think about your goals and to work towards your goals every single day. Because when you work progressively, step by step, towards something that's important to you, you know what happens? You feel better and better, and you start to get results, and the results start to motivate you to go forward even more, and you get more results, and pretty soon you develop this wonderful feeling of self-confidence. You become unstoppable. When you have big dreams, that's the cosmic or vision part of your life, and then goals, which are very set and specific, and you start moving toward fulfilling them, you feel fabulous about yourself. 80–90% of unhappiness in our society today is because people don't have goals. Whenever you meet an unhappy person, here's a test question. Just say, well, you're unhappy about this and your job and your family and your health and everything else, but tell me, what are your goals? Do you know what people will say? Geez, what kind of a question is that? Most people have no goals. As soon as they have goals, they start to move forward. Now, here's the keys to setting goals. First of all, write them down. A goal that's not written is just a fantasy. A goal, a real goal, is a dream with a deadline. So take the goal and write it down. And then set a deadline for the goal. When do you want to accomplish it? And then make a plan to accomplish it. Write down everything you can think of that you'll have to do to get the goal. And then organize the plan by priority. What should you do first? What should you do second? And so on. And then get started. It's the most incredible darn thing. But there's amazing how many people say, I'd like to be financially independent. Well, why aren't you? To show me your financial independence bank account. Show me your savings account and your plan for how much you're going to put in each week, each month, each year, and where you plan to be in 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. Oh, I don't have any of that. I just want to be financially independent. Shut up. Fact of the matter is that once you start moving toward the accomplishment of a goal, the most remarkable darn things happen.
I think a lot of entrepreneurship and even personal growth is training yourself on how you respond to hard. Because in the early days, hard was, ooh, stop. This isn't good. This is a warning sign. This is a red flag. I should slow down, or I should stop, I should pivot. But the more I think about it as a competitive landscape, as I'm clear on what this path is supposed to look like, and these rocks and these dragons are things that I'm going to have to slay along the way to get the princess or get the treasure, I get happier about the harder it is because I know that no one else will follow.
It's a selection effect.
And I think if you can shift from this is hard to no one else will be able to do this, then it flips from being this thing that you're like, oh, poor me, to oh, poor everyone else who's going to have to fucking try. Yeah. And I think that is so much more motivating as a frame for the exact same circumstance.
Now, some people line up on the negative side. They're going to see what's wrong. And you know something? They're right. There's something wrong. Other people go on the positive side. They see what's good. And they're right. There's something good. You can find what's right or wrong in anything. Doesn't matter what you're looking at. If you want to find what's wrong with my presentation, just keep looking. Take a pen and pencil because you're going to get busy. Or if you want to look at what's right, look at that. There's a power flowing into our consciousness, and we have the ability to think anything we want to think. And it's the thoughts we think that causes the feelings because we get emotionally involved with them. That causes the body to move into action and produce results.
I think a lot of entrepreneurship and even personal growth is training yourself on how you respond to hard. Because in the early days, hard was, ooh, stop. This isn't good. This is a warning sign. This is a red flag. I should slow down, or I should stop, I should pivot. But the more I think about it as a competitive landscape, as I'm clear on what this path is supposed to look like, and these rocks and these dragons are things that I'm going to have to slay along the way to get the princess or get the treasure, I get happier about the harder it is because I know that no one else will follow.
It's a selection effect.
And I think if you can shift from this is hard to no one else will be able to do this, then it flips from being this thing that you're like, oh, poor me, to oh, poor everyone else who's going to have to fucking try. Yeah. And I think that is so much more motivating as a frame for the exact same circumstance.
Ray Stanford sat down with me and he put an R on a sheet of paper. Then he put 3 letters down beside it, 2 H's and a W. Now he said, Bob, let the R represent results, and let the 2 H's and a W happiness, health, and wealth. Then he asked me if I thought he was a happy person. I said, yeah, he seemed pretty happy to me. He said, did you ever see me sick? I had to admit I hadn't. He said, did you ever see me when I was broke? I had to admit I hadn't. This guy always had money on him, quite a bit of it. He said, Bob, you're one of the most miserable people I've ever met. Now, this is in 1961. He said, you're always sick. He said, you don't have a terminal illness, but you've always got a cold or a headache or something. And he said, you're always broke. Now, he was so right. I was earning $4,000 a year. I owed $6,000. Now, I want you to think of this. At the time, I had 2 months high school. I had no business experience at all. I was 26. I had left school when I was 15. I worked all over the place. I was in the Canadian Navy. I worked in bars and in factories. Always dumb jobs. No wonder I was unhappy, sick, and broke. I studied nothing. I read nothing. He said, do you ever read anything? And I said, no, I can't read. And that's when he introduced me to this book. And he said, Bob, Napoleon Hill studied 500 of the world's most successful people over many, many years. And it was at the counseling of the richest man in the world that he did that, Andrew Carnegie. And he found there was a golden thread running through their life. And he wrote the laws of achievement. I have the laws of achievement right here. Pull those 4 over a bit. And they are right there. There's 8 little books. And that was the laws of achievement. Now, he wrote those at the request of Andrew Carnegie. Carnegie said it was a shame, like people like himself, who was the wealthiest man in the world, is going to their grave with all his knowledge locked up in their bones. He said nobody's ever organized the laws of achievement. And as a result, most people never achieve very much. And he got Hill to do it. Well, after he did it, then this book, The Laws, or Think and Grow Rich, came out of that. And this is what I was really into studying. Okay? You know that within a year, my income was at $175,000. Now, at the beginning, the end of this meeting, Arash is going to be giving you a directive. And what I would suggest you do is listen very carefully to him. This is a goal card that I have my goal written on. I carry this in my pocket. Every time I put my hand in my pocket and touch that card, the picture that's in my mind flashes on the screen in my mind. I painted the picture in words on the card, and it's tucked into cells in my brain. Well, that's how I went from earning $4,000 to $175,000, and I did it in less than a year. This is no formal education, no business experience. I had no idea what I was doing. In less than 5 years, I was over $1 million a year. I had business operating in Toronto, Montreal, Boston, Cleveland, Atlanta, in London, England. If you asked me how I did, I had no idea. I had no idea.
3 shifts. There's 8 instructors, 3 shifts. Because, you know, the guys going through Hell Week, they're up all day and all night for 130 hours. This is the promised land of mental hardening for me. I love this place. And you have the instructors who you know, they've been there, done that. Now they're instructing you. So they do their 8-hour shift. They have their parkas on. It's usually cold, coffee, drinking their coffee. And they're beating the crap out of us. And when I started realizing, I started playing mind games. And I was like, you know what? I bet these fuckers are looking at us, judging themselves about when they were going through Hell Week. About, let me see, I'm looking at Goggins right now. I was better than him. I was better than that guy. I was better than that fucker over there. And I was like, okay. You got to judge me, right? All right. So that's what I'm going to do to you. So what I started doing was I got my Boat Crew 2. It's in the book. It's a great, great story. I said, come here, guys.
You can't break Boat Crew 2.
You can't break Boat Crew 2. So it's Wednesday, and everybody's broken. Everybody's beat up, man. And like this, I mean, you start moving like a robot. Everybody's like just kind of just trying to get through Hell Week now, and your energy's zapped. And they know Wednesday's like that over the hump.
I love that you talked about that in the book too, that they put it in your head that Wednesday you're going to be tired.
Oh yeah, and that's another thing. They tell you how you're supposed to feel, so you are feeling that way. I was like, don't let these motherfuckers tell you how you're supposed to feel. No, it's day one, motherfucker. This is hour one. So I was getting my Boat Crew all jacked up. I said, we're gonna take these motherfuckers' souls. So when they had us doing this simple thing that guys were struggling with, Boat Crew 2 was just launching the fucking boat and you're yelling, yeah, you can't fucking hurt us. You can't hurt Boat Crew 2. And I looked on the instructors' faces and it looked like someone had just fucked with their soul. And I looked at my guys in my Boat Crew and I said, hey, guess what? Those motherfuckers aren't fucking tonight. We own space in their fucking head. We own space. They're going to think about us tonight. They could think about how the fuck.
You're killing boners.
That's right. Charging. And we start fueling off of that. We start fueling off the fact that, man, it takes 1 second of energy to steal everybody's. And then you have all the energy you need. That's all you need. You need to look at someone's eyes. You know how it is when you fight somebody and you broke that motherfucker. He's like, oh, God, man, I don't want to go back to the next round. And you feel like, my God, I can fight all day. I can fight all day long. That's what taking souls is. But you have to have the will, the heart, the courage to go that distance when you're exactly jacked up. You have nothing left to give and give more.
Your life. When did you start playing basketball, and at what age did it become your primary focus?
I think I was just born to play, man. I started playing at like 2 years old. And my father wasn't one of these fathers that was like, you're going to play basketball, or, he wasn't one of those guys. It was just I was just around the game a lot, and I gravitated to the ball, and I was completely geeking out about like the smell of the ball and like the way it sounds when it hits concrete versus how it hits a parquet floor, and like the sound of the nets and the different material of the nets. And there's certain basketball hoops, like in high school gyms and in college gyms, the rim sits slightly above the lower part of the backboard, and it was like I was geeking out if I got into a gym which was like the NBA, with the lower stanchion of the backboard and the hoop were completely parallel with each other. Like little shit like that would freak me out. So to answer your question, I was born to do this thing, man, and I did it nonstop all day long, from the age of 2
To believe in the things you can see and touch. We've got things we can see and touch. That's no belief at all. To believe in the unseen is a triumph and a blessing. Do you know the biggest part of you you'll never see? The real you'll never see. Now we've got to start to understand this. We've got to start to get it in the right slot in our mind. We've got to realize that there's so much to us that we don't really get. We don't understand. Our educational system is so lacking in teaching us who we are. You can study psychology, but most people that study psychology have never really got to know themselves. I'm talking about in depth, who you really are, your relationship to the whole scheme of things, or your relationship to God. You're talking about an infinite power, and you're created in that image. We have infinite potential locked up within us.
In a survey of 104 chief executive officers a couple of years ago, they asked them, what qualities would most put a person onto the fast track for promotion in your company? And they almost unanimously answered the ability to set priorities and get the job done fast. The ability to pick what's important and then to get on with it and get the damn job done. Do you know, today, time is the currency, the key source of value of the 90s and beyond. And today, we value people who do things for us fast. Today, as a matter of fact, they have what is called queuing theory. When there's a queue and people join the queue, they say, and they estimate this all the time, how long a queue will a person join before they walk away and not buy any? It used to be 7, then it was 6, now it was 5, then it's 4. You know what queuing theory today is? It's 3. Person will walk here. There's 3 people in line. If that line is not moving, forget it. I won't buy it. I'll get it somewhere else. That's why they have to have people on almost like alert when people start to approach checkout counters or desks in banks. They watch, because as soon as there's 3 people, they better get up there or those people will walk away, change their accounts. We don't even know we want it till today. Now we want it yesterday. Isn't that right? When you sell products or services, it may take you 2 or 3 months to get the order, and now they want it last week. And they're very insistent it be delivered immediately, or they buy it from someone else. It's a most incredible thing. So therefore, get a reputation for having a sense of urgency. Get a reputation for having a bias for action. Get a reputation for fast tempo. Move fast, move quick. If a person asks you a question, don't say, well, I'll get back to you next week. Get back to them now, quickly, as fast as you can. Develop a bias for action and say to yourself over and over, do it now, do it now, do it now, do it now. And if you add this like a rocket behind everything else, you become unstoppable.
This drawing is without question so valuable and so misunderstood. And he went on to explain more about the conscious mind. He says, that's your thinking mind, Bob. Problem with most people is they don't think. They really don't think. Mental activity never constitutes thinking. I remember when he said that, and I never forgot it. He said, that is your thinking mind. It's also referred to as the educational mind. This is you I'm talking about. Now, as I keep building this idea, you're really going to get to know yourself, the world you live in, and the laws that govern your being a lot better. Yet, as you understand yourself a lot better, you're going to find your finances are going to improve, your health is going to improve, your relationships are going to improve, your whole world starts to get better. The educated mind is also referred to sometimes as the intellectual mind. That's where all the intellectual factors are. Remember I told you what they were? You had perception, the will, reason, imagination, memory, and intuition. There's 6 of them. They are our mental muscles. And as you start to understand how to develop them, you can become a very powerful person. If you've ever been in a seminar that I've been in, you know that I can walk up to a person, I can tell them all about themselves. Everything that goes on the inside shows on the outside. It's your intuitive factor that enables you to read that. We hide nothing. And I always do this in a seminar to show off a little bit. I want really get your attention, see what I can do. But then what I really want to do is say, if I can do it, you can do it. See, we watch other people do things and we become fascinated if they're doing it really well. What we want to understand, if we want to do it, we can do what they're doing. The subconscious mind is your emotional mind. When you're emotionally upset, you've got the wrong ideas being fed into that part of your mind. Now, over here on this side, because you can think, you have the ability to choose. And because you can choose, you can accept or reject everything that comes down the road. Everything. God, there's a lot of crazy information coming at us through TV, newspapers, radio, television. Just overhearing restaurants, conversations, if you can get into a restaurant. You can accept or reject everything, and then you have the ability you can originate. Now, the subconscious mind doesn't have the ability to do all those things. All those magnificent abilities are in the conscious mind. The subconscious, it must accept whatever you give to it. Must. It has no ability to reject. And get this, it's what you impress upon your subconscious mind that ultimately turns into results in our life. This is where we want to get our imagination going in high gear. Your subconscious mind cannot differentiate between what you've imagined and what's real. It has no ability to differentiate between the two. Unfortunately, most people imagine what's wrong. They think of what they don't want rather than what they do want. Now look here for a moment. Let's take that knowledge and we'll say, this is you, today. There's information coming at you today, and it is terrible information. And it's flowing into your conscious mind. Now you have the ability to think, you have the ability to reject that. You can say, get out of here. And they all go away. But you know something? Most people don't do that. You want to know what they do? This is what they do. They're not thinking at all. their subconscious mind is wide open. And that information goes right into the subconscious mind. Remember what we said about the subconscious? It has no ability to reject all that negative information. Why do we leave the mind open like that? It's our paradigm. It's how we're programmed. We're literally programmed to live that.
Accept complete responsibility for yourself and everything that happens to you. I used to be asked on radio and television, why are some people more successful than others? And I used to think it was goals, was the starting point. But you know what the real starting point is? To accept that if it's to be, it's up to me. Is that nobody's going to do it for me. You know, they say that the mark of maturity is when you finally realize that no one is coming to the rescue. No one's coming to the rescue. That the difference between the mature person and the immature person is the mature person accepts that they're totally responsible for their own life, that they are where they are and what they are because of themselves. Now this is a hard thing to accept, but you have decided exactly every single part of your life today. You've decided your income and your home and your health and your weight. You've decided your bank account and your car. You've decided your job and your future. You've decided every single part of it. Why? It's because you're free to choose. Freedom is a very, very wonderful thing. Tremendous upside, tremendous downside too. But freedom means that nobody imposes anything on you. So where you are and what you are is a result of all of your choices and decisions up to now. If you want to change any part of your future, then you simply change your choices and decisions in the present. The first thing to choose, the first thing to change is to decide what it is that you want, but second of all is to decide that if I'm going to get it, it's up to me. We've said over and over again, see yourself as the president of your own life, the president of your own career, the president of your own personal corporation. Because in reality, all of us are self-employed. The worst mistake anyone can ever make is to ever think that they work for someone else but themselves. No matter who signs your paycheck, we all work for ourselves. Do you want a raise in pay? No problem. Go to the washroom next time you get a chance and negotiate with your boss in the mirror. And your raise will become effective as soon as you do. It's very simple. I've never met an employer who was not willing to pay a person more money if they will produce more value for the company. And the amount of value we produce is always up to us. So always say, I am responsible. I am responsible. I am unstoppable, and I am responsible for my own life. If I don't like something, it's up to me to change it. No excuses, no blaming. Never complain, never explain. If you're not happy with something, change it. Not willing to change it, shut up.
You can create your own economy. You can create the life you really want. Nothing tricky about it. Energy functions on frequencies. Remember we said that? A frequency is a level of vibration. There's an infinite number of vibrations, of levels of vibrations, of frequencies. An infinite number. Let's take a look again at what Albert Einstein said. So beautiful. Study this very carefully. Everything is energy, and that's all there is to it. Match the frequency of the reality you want, and you cannot help but get that reality. It can be no other way. This isn't a philosophy. It's physics. Look at, when I sat down and wrote out that we would have, our company would operate all over the world, then I went to work. I had the idea. Mikey phones me. Now that was in 1973. It was just a couple of weeks ago she phoned. She's in every country in the world.
We love to do. I mean, we talk about hard work all the time. It's like, you know, man, if you got to get up every single morning and remind yourself how hard you need to work, you probably need to choose a different profession, you know, because that shouldn't be there. I wake up in the morning excited to get to it. You know, if I'm not training, I'm missing it. If I'm not watching a game of basketball, I miss it. There's no place I'd rather be. And if you have that feeling, then you're truly doing what God has put you on.
You're a mass of energy and you function on frequencies. You are. Now think of that. You may not think of yourself that way. And then you might say, what's this got to do with anything? Well, if you really understand it, you can attract more money, all the money you want, as a matter of fact. You can attract good health. You can attract great relationships. You can attract phenomenal business. I sat down on a sofa in a room by myself a little house on Maplewood Lane in 1973, and I said, I'm going to build a company that operates all over the world. The lady that introduced us, Mikey Steller, is our Chief Operating Officer, and she's also our Marketing Director. And I sat down to watch television one night, which I very rarely do, and I only watched it for a few minutes. I thought, I don't want to watch this. And as I was getting up, my phone rang. And it was Mikey on the phone. This would be maybe 2-3 weeks ago. And she said, Bob, I just got a call from Betty. We're in every country in the world. I thought, wow. I wrote that in 1973. I was intellectually involved and I got emotionally involved. But I was it. I was the company. There was no one else. I was by myself. That's what I wanted to do. If you don't know what you want to do, you're going to drift. You're just going to float around like a leaf on a windy day. You're not going to go anywhere. You are a massive energy and you function on frequencies. And Val really helped me understand that. Val Van de Waal had a very strong spiritual understanding. And he said, Bob, if you take a picture of yourself with a Kirlian camera, you're going to see yourself as a glistening, radiating, gleaming form. Semyon Kirlian was a Russian photographer back in 1934, and he perfected Kirlian photography, what we call now Kirlian photography after him. When you photograph mass, you can photograph the energy coming from it. You can photograph a plant, and you'll see there's a vibration coming from the plant. Everything vibrates. A garden rock is vibrating. Everything moves. Nothing rests. Now, why am I telling you this? I'm telling you because I think it's a mighty important thing for you to really understand.
You're going to lose sleep. You'll doubt whether it'll work. You'll stress to make ends meet. You won't finish your to-do list. You'll wonder whether you made the right call and have no way to know for years. This is what hard feels like, and that's okay. Everything worth doing is hard, and the more worth doing it is, the harder it is. The greater the payoff, the greater the hardship. If it's hard, good. It means no one else will do it. More for you.
Everything is energy. Now think. That's all there is to it. Everything is energy. Everything. Match the frequency of the reality you want. Yet you cannot help but get that reality. It can be no other way. This is not philosophy. This is physics.
The greatest single limitation on success in America, in the world today, is lack of confidence. It's not that we can't do it. We have capacities and abilities beyond anything that we have ever thought of in our whole life. You know, if you used your talents to the full for the rest of your life, you would never even use a fraction of what you're actually capable of, based on all the research that's been done. We are right now functioning, according to Stanford Brain Institute, with about 2% of our brain power. 2%. The rest of it is huge, this huge reserve of brain power, which we're kind of keeping there in case we ever need a little. You know, we got so much of it, it's unbelievable. Well, so I said to myself, what is the key here? And you know what? There's a common denominator of helplessness and habit. And the common denominators are fear and ignorance. Fear and ignorance. We're afraid. We're afraid it might not work. We're afraid we might fail. We're afraid it might cost us something. We're afraid of criticism and embarrassment. We're afraid of failure and loss and limitation and lack and ill health and disapproval. We're so afraid. The things that we would do if we weren't afraid are literally beyond belief. And we're afraid of getting out of the comfort zone because of what they might say. What if we did something different? Changed jobs, changed careers, started a business, got into something else? What would they say? Do you know, I was listening to a psychologist talking the other day. He says, nobody's ever been able to define who they are. But it's they out there. It's the great almighty they that's got us terrified. You know, it's a true statement. We say that when you're in your 20s, you don't care what people think. And when you're in your 30s, you're very sensitive to what people think. And then you get into your 40s. And in your 40s, you realize the great truth is that no one was ever thinking about you at all. And that's the fact. Nobody ever thinks about us at all. And there we are. We're so terrified of doing what we really want to do because of what they might say or think. So we stay in that comfort zone.
I'm taking the ball out of bounds. It's like the fourth quarter, and the fan yells behind me, goes, "Kobe, you're garbage." I turned around, I said, "Dude, be more creative." Like we both know that's not true. Like say something that's kind of somewhat realistic, that can like needle me a little bit.
For time immemorial, going back to several hundred years before Christ, the greatest minds of all time have focused on answering the question, why is it that some people are more successful than others? All the work of Socrates was around the subject, how shall we live in order to be happy? What are the keys to wisdom and goodness in life? Plato also wrote about the same subject. How should we live? How should we organize our lives and our families and our societies? Aristotle, and all throughout history, the great philosophers and metaphysicians and mystics, the great religious teachers and preachers and the best writers have all looked at this question, what can we do in order to be happy, to be more successful, to have more of the things that we want? If I say, would you like to be financially independent? You say, of course. Would you like to be financially independent? Yes. Why aren't you? Why aren't you financially independent? You're making one of the best livings in the history of the world, living in the richest country in the history of the world. Why aren't you a little bit financially independent? And you know what you say? I can't. My bills are too high. My taxes are too high. My costs are too high. My this, my that, my... The fact of the matter is there are people who come over here with nothing from foreign countries and save every single thing that they make and live on half of their income, and 10 years later, working at laboring jobs, they've got 20, 50, 100 people working for them and they're financially independent. Why? It's because they had no limitation. All of our limitations exist within our own minds, and the worst of all is we feel helpless. The second reason why people stay where they are is illustrated by the story of Speedy the Rat. Speedy the Rat is put into a cage, and off the cage there are 4 tunnels. And Speedy is kept hungry, and in the mouth of the 4th tunnel, down here, a little bit of cheese is put. Speedy is dropped into the cage, and Speedy is hungry. He goes, smells cheese around here somewhere, so starts doing a little search. Searches around a little bit, tries the 1st tunnel, 2nd tunnel, 3rd tunnel, finds the cheese at the 4th tunnel. Chomp, 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 eats the cheese and is happy. Takes Speedy out, keep him out for 24 hours, he's hungry again, put him back in. Now the cheese is in the mouth of the 4th tunnel, and Speedy goes, a little bit familiar. He does a search process, comes to the 1st tunnel, 2nd tunnel, 3rd tunnel, there's the cheese in the 4th tunnel. By the 3rd or 4th day, you can put Speedy in the cage and he'll go right to the 4th tunnel and get the cheese. Once Speedy is conditioned, they take the cheese and they move it halfway back this tunnel, about 3 feet deep. This is the tunnel by which I mean about 3 feet or 3 inches around. And Speedy comes running in, rushes to the 4th tunnel, no cheese. Looks around, backs up, counts. Goes and explores, sniff, 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 sniff. Smells cheese in that 4th tunnel, finally explores and finds the cheese. Well, in a couple of days, Speedy is conditioned to drop into the cage, go straight to the 4th tunnel, halfway back and get the cheese. And so then they move the cheese to the back of the 4th tunnel. And of course, in no time at all, Speedy is conditioned to go choo, choo, and get the cheese. Then they take the cheese and move it to the back of the 2nd tunnel. Well, Speedy's put in the cage, goes straight to the 4th tunnel, straight to the back, comes out, looks up at the researchers, says, where's my cheese? Not a happy camper. They say, I don't know. Speedy turns around, goes back to the back of the 4th tunnel, comes back. It's hungry. And when you're hungry, you know, you don't have much of a sense of humor, even if you're a rat. Turns around, goes back to the back of the 4th tunnel, comes back. Now, here's the moral of the story. Speedy has a rat brain the size of a pea. You, as human beings, have a 3-pound brain that is the most powerful organism ever conceived of in the universe. We cannot even conceive of anything more complex and more powerful than your brain. You can send thoughts across thousands of miles. You can think of a person and get them to phone you from across the country. You've done this many times before. Your brain is so powerful it's scary when it's properly used. But Speedy has a brain the size of a pea. And Speedy, with a brain the size of a pea, will eventually figure out that there's no cheese at the end of the 4th tunnel. And will begin exploring the other tunnels and will eventually find it at the end of the 2nd tunnel. But human beings with this incredible brain will keep going down the 4th tunnel forever. They will keep doing what they've always done. They will get into a rut, which we call a comfort zone. They will set a series of habits that are not serving their best interests, and they will keep on with those habits, and they will keep doing things that no longer make them happy, that no longer give them any cheese, and they will keep doing them year after year. And we find that almost everybody today, all of us, to consciously and unconsciously, is held by these twin pillars, these twin bindings of helplessness on the one hand and habit on the other. is that we try to free ourselves from feeling helpless, and we fall right into an old comfort zone. Or we get out of the comfort zone, we get right back into feeling helpless. The only way that we can achieve our true destiny is to break the shackles that are holding us, and the answers to both of them are confidence and courage.
I think the best way to prove your value is to work, is to learn, is to absorb, to be a sponge. Right? But you always want to outwork your potential. You know, as hard as you believe you can work harder than that. And that's what I tried to do when I first came in the league. But, you know, basketball is such a direct competition sport that me coming in at 17, I hated when, like, my teammates would say, you know, I get hit with an elbow, right? Shaq would hit me with an elbow in practice. And, like, you know, Nick Van Exel would come up and say, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "Motherfucker, what? Are you okay? What the hell's wrong with you?" You know, so, like, I always had that extra chip on my shoulder. So, like, every day in practice for me was really trying to annihilate everybody that I was playing against. Because I wanted to prove you don't need to babysit me. Like, I'm fine, you know? And so it's always that competitive nature, the work ethic, and curiosity. Because I asked a lot of questions. You know, playing with Byron Scott, I asked him a lot of questions. Eddie Jones, who was great at chasing guards off the screens, and I didn't understand how to do that. I would sit with him before practice, after practice. Magic, James Worthy, Kurt Rambis, Kareem Abdul, all the Laker greats. I would always sit down and just ask them questions about certain games that I studied growing up. What actually happened there? What did you feel there? Why? You know, Bird tough to defend. Why? Because he looks slow as shit to me. So like, I'm missing something. So, like, tell me what I'm missing. You know what I mean? And so I would always ask questions and try to learn.
You see, energy functions on frequencies, and that's what you're made of. Your body is a mass of living energy. A frequency is a level of vibration. That's exactly what a frequency is. There is an infinite number of frequencies. Remember I said you can think, activate brain cells, and you send off a charge of energy. Now stay with me here. This is so important, yet it's so misunderstood. There's an infinite number of frequencies. Every one of those little purple lines represent a level of vibration. Now, do you know, Albert Einstein, God bless him, he sure had his act put together, didn't he? He said, everything is energy, and that's all there is to it. Match the frequency of the reality you want, and you cannot help but get that reality. It can be no other way. This is not philosophy. This is physics.
After watching that film, I come to understand if I could work that hard every day, with being blessed with the physical tools that I have, what would my career be? And I made a promise to myself from that day that I was going to work that hard every single day so that when I do retire, I have no regrets. And that was the most important thing for me, is to leave no stone unturned, get better every single day. And if I lived that way, then over time, you know, I'd have something that was beautiful. But that was my philosophy. It seems like a pretty simple one, but you know, if you live your life to just get better every single day, and do that for 20 years, I mean, what do you have?
Do what you love to do. This is very important. These are the four, this in terms of becoming unstoppable is fabulous, because if you do what you love to do, you will be like an irresistible force of nature. Do what you love to do and commit to becoming very good at it. All of our research indicates that the odds against there being another person like you are more than 50 billion to 1. In the entire history of humanity, there will never be two people like you. Never be two people with the same face. Never be two people with the same, even blood composition, exactly. Never be two people with the same outlook, the same talents, abilities, capacities. Never be two people just like you. And that every single person, or let us say 95% or more of the population, are born with the capacity to do something remarkable with their lives. And the starting point of personal greatness is when you usually say to yourself, what wonderful thing am I going to do with my life? Why am I here? I have this one life, this precious, precious life, and as you know, this life is not a rehearsal for something else. This is the real one. You say to yourself, what am I going to do with my life? Why am I here? What are my unique talents and abilities? Look back into your life and ask yourself, what is it that you've done in the past that you most enjoyed? What is it that you've done in the past that comes easy to you, but which may be difficult to others? What subjects did you do the best at in school? What are the things that interest you the most? What are the things you like to read about and talk about and learn about? What are the things that hold your attention? What are the things that are indicators that this is where you should be focusing all your talents and abilities? Whatever it is, find it, and then commit yourself to becoming excellent at it. You see, it's not possible for us to be happy unless we know we're good at what we do. A person who's not very good at what they do feels inferior when they're with people who are good at what they do. We've all had this experience, by the way, being around people who are at the top of their field when we're not. We feel just a little bit kind of overawed, like we're standing in the shadow of their light. And knowing that we're good at what we do makes us feel unstoppable. Yes. So if you are dreaming big dreams and you have clear goals and you accept total responsibility and you're doing what you love to do and you're getting better and better at it, and remember, excellence is a journey, not a destination.
As those who tell stories rule society, he said, learn lots of stories, Bob. Because he said, you are a story. You are a story. Now think about that. You are a story.
We love to do. I mean, we talk about hard work all the time. It's like, you know, man, if you got to get up every single morning and remind yourself how hard you need to work, you probably need to choose a different profession, you know, because that shouldn't be there. I wake up in the morning excited to get to it. You know, if I'm not training, I'm missing it. If I'm not watching a game of basketball, I miss it. There's no place I'd rather be. And if you have that feeling, then you're truly doing what God has put you on.
There's a story about Ted Williams when he was the top baseball player in America, one of the highest paid, best batting averages, and so on. At the end of a doubleheader, everyone had gone home. The park was empty. And the park maintenance man was out cleaning up. And way out there, with an automatic ball machine, there was a batter just slugging away at the balls. And he came out and he looked at him. He said, geez, he said, you're Ted Williams. He said, yes. He said, pleased to meet you. He said, what are you doing here? All the other ball players are back at the hotel and having parties and everything else. He said, well, I'm practicing. He said, but you're the best baseball player. You're the best hitter in all of America. He said, you don't need to be out here. And he said, why do you think that is? Why do you think that is? Because he's always concentrated on getting better. And, of course, it pays off.
This drawing is without question so valuable and so misunderstood. And he went on to explain more about the conscious mind. He says, that's your thinking mind, Bob. Problem with most people is they don't think. They really don't think. Mental activity never constitutes thinking. I remember when he said that, and I never forgot it. He said, that is your thinking mind. It's also referred to as the educational mind. This is you I'm talking about. Now, as I keep building this idea, you're really going to get to know yourself, the world you live in, and the laws that govern your being a lot better. Yet, as you understand yourself a lot better, you're going to find your finances are going to improve, your health is going to improve, your relationships are going to improve, your whole world starts to get better. The educated mind is also referred to sometimes as the intellectual mind. That's where all the intellectual factors are. Remember I told you what they were? You had perception, the will, reason, imagination, memory, and intuition. There's 6 of them. They are our mental muscles. And as you start to understand how to develop them, you can become a very powerful person. If you've ever been in a seminar that I've been in, you know that I can walk up to a person, I can tell them all about themselves. Everything that goes on the inside shows on the outside. It's your intuitive factor that enables you to read that. We hide nothing. And I always do this in a seminar to show off a little bit. I want really get your attention, see what I can do. But then what I really want to do is say, if I can do it, you can do it. See, we watch other people do things and we become fascinated if they're doing it really well. What we want to understand, if we want to do it, we can do what they're doing. The subconscious mind is your emotional mind. When you're emotionally upset, you've got the wrong ideas being fed into that part of your mind. Now, over here on this side, because you can think, you have the ability to choose. And because you can choose, you can accept or reject everything that comes down the road. Everything. Because there's a lot of crazy information coming at us through TV, newspapers, radio, television. Just overhearing restaurants, conversations, if you can get into a restaurant. You can accept or reject everything, and then you have the ability you can originate. Now, the subconscious mind doesn't have the ability to do all those things. All those magnificent abilities are in the conscious mind. The subconscious, it must accept whatever you give to it. Must. It has no ability to reject. And get this, it's what you impress upon your subconscious mind that ultimately turns into results in our life. This is where we want to get our imagination going in high gear. Your subconscious mind cannot differentiate between what you've imagined and what's real. It has no ability to differentiate between the two. Unfortunately, most people imagine what's wrong. They think of what they don't want rather than what they do want. Now look here for a moment. Let's take that knowledge and we'll say, this is you, today. There's information coming at you today, and it is terrible information. And it's flowing into your conscious mind. Now you have the ability to think, you have the ability to reject that. You can say, get out of here. And they all go away. But you know something? Most people don't do that. You want to know what they do? This is what they do. They're not thinking at all. Their subconscious mind is wide open. And that information goes right into the subconscious mind. Remember what we said about the subconscious? It has no ability to reject all that negative information. Why do we leave the mind open like that? It's our paradigm. It's how we're programmed. We're literally programmed to live that way.
Truly successful people are absolutely honest and objective with themselves and their worlds. They practice the highest of integrity. There's nothing that so undermines your confidence and so weakens your resolve than feeling inside that you're not doing or saying the right thing. Shakespeare said, to thine own self be true, and then it must follow as the night the day, thou canst not then be false to any man. Now, internal integrity, being true to yourself, being true to the very best that is in you, is the starting point. But the outward expression of it is doing what you do in a quality way. You see, the work that you do with your hands, the work that you choose to hand in, the work that you choose to represent, that would be a symbol of you, is a mark of your true level of integrity. A person who has a high level of integrity does excellent work. A person with a low level of integrity does whatever they can get away with. A person says, well, I'm a very honest person, as long as you don't give me a temptation. And the fact of the matter is, you can ask people, you say, an honest person? Yes, I am. Well, what if you could steal $1 million and nobody would know? Well, tell me about it. So basically, you're just a thief looking for an opportunity. Because a truly honest person, a person of high character, is a person that would not compromise their integrity for anyone or anything. Once you decide to be true to yourself, then the next extension, aside from your work, is to live in truth with others. Living in truth with others is one of the hardest and most challenging things we ever do. But it's also one of the great builders of your soul or destroyers of your soul. Because almost all of our problems in life talk back. Almost all of our problems in life come with hair on top. They come with two legs. And you find that men and women who are truly together as human beings are completely honest and direct with other people. If they're not happy with a situation, they say, I'm not happy with this situation. That doesn't mean you go and punch somebody in the face when you're not happy. It just means you say, I'm not happy with this situation, and I'd like to find a way to rectify it. And if the other person isn't willing to work with you to make you happy in the situation, you don't want to be in that situation anyway. It's absolutely amazing how many people stay in situations where the other person couldn't give a damn whether they were happy or not. And then they try to make the situation work. And they ask me for advice on how to make the situation work. And I say, I'm sorry, I can't help you. The fact is that if you live in truth with others, it means that you're perfectly honest with other people. And when you're perfectly honest with other people, you feel better about yourself. You feel stronger inside. Here's the key. Set peace of mind, the greatest of all human goods, as your highest goal. Set peace of mind as your highest goal and make everything else you do fit underneath it. Refuse to compromise your peace of mind for anything. And you know what? If you do, you'll probably never make another mistake. If you set peace of mind as my highest goal, and you say everything that I do or don't do from now on is either going to give me a sense of inner peace or I'm not going to do it. It takes tremendous courage to do this. But if you do it, you feel terrific about yourself. You feel powerful inside. You feel so good about yourself. You feel so focused and so light and so happy. But if you compromise your peace of mind, it's like kicking the chair out from under you psychologically and emotionally. So just refuse to compromise your peace of mind. Refuse to do it if you don't feel good about it. Listen to your inner voice.
You see, energy functions on frequencies, and that's what you're made of. Your body is a mass of living energy. A frequency is a level of vibration. That's exactly what a frequency is. There is an infinite number of frequencies. Remember I said you can think, activate brain cells, and you send off a charge of energy. Now stay with me here. This is so important, yet it's so misunderstood. There's an infinite number of frequencies. Every one of those little purple lines represent a level of vibration. Now, do you know, Albert Einstein, God bless him, he sure had his act put together, didn't he? He said, everything is energy, and that's all there is to it. Match the frequency of the reality you want, and you cannot help but get that reality. It can be no other way. This is not philosophy. This is physics.
Now, all successful people are those who consciously are aware that the self-doubt that holds most people back is something that they are heir to as well. And they're alert and sensitive to it. When a person says, why don't you do this or why don't you do that? They have a tendency to say, well, I can't because of this and I can't. Wait a minute. There's a story of a little boy. Goes to school for the first time. And the teacher says, do you play a musical instrument? He said, I don't know, I haven't tried yet. If you ask an adult, do you play a musical instrument? What will the adult say? Nope, I can't. No, never could. Don't have tone deaf. Don't have any musical ability at all. Do you know that every child has perfect pitch up to the age of 5? That every child has the ability to play classical music up to the age of 5? The Suzuki musical training systems have demonstrated that. You can start teaching kids classical violin at the age of 3. Just when they can barely move their hands, they can start to play. It's phenomenal. Yet most of us believe, I can't. You know, I don't have it. I can't do it. Our natural tendency is to sell ourselves short. Our natural tendency is to think of the reasons why we can't before we think of the reasons why we can. So the key to breaking ourselves out of the comfort zone and breaking ourselves loose of the shackle of helplessness is courage and confidence. We neutralize the antidote to fear and ignorance is desire and knowledge. And the more we learn about what we want to do and be and have, the more we believe that we can do it. The more we believe that we can do it, the more willing we are to try. And the more willing we are to try, the more likely it is we will succeed. What is the first part of triumph? The first part of triumph is to try.
You see, energy functions on frequencies, and that's what you're made of. Your body is a mass of living energy. A frequency is a level of vibration. That's exactly what a frequency is. There is an infinite number of frequencies. Remember I said you can think, activate brain cells, and you send off a charge of energy. Now stay with me here. This is so important, yet it's so misunderstood. There's an infinite number of frequencies. Every one of those little purple lines represent a level of vibration. Now, do you know, Albert Einstein, God bless him, he sure had his act put together, didn't he? He said, everything is energy, and that's all there is to it. Match the frequency of the reality you want, and you cannot help but get that reality. It can be no other way. This is not philosophy. This is physics.
People only root for people who don't need it. Like the amount of times when I was on my lonely path where I was too different from the friends that I had, but not successful enough to be friends with the people that I wanted to be friends with. That's when you want people to root for you. That's when you want people to support you. once you've already won, people are like, he's amazing, he's so good. But like, that's the time when you need it the least. And so you always have to be the person who roots for you before everyone else does. And it's usually a single clap in the auditorium for a very long period of time. It is a slow clap that's just you rooting for you. And that visual, I think, is one that you can kind of take, because it is, people struggle to do things alone. And the path of the exceptional person is one of an exception, which means that you are not with other people. And rather than fighting that or bemoaning it, see it as an indicator that you're on the right path. Because if everyone else were cheering you on, then it means you're not in the right place, because it means you're just like everyone else, and that's not where you want to be.
He brought out the strangest secret record. Right at the beginning of that recording, he talks about the good Dr. Albert Schweitzer being interviewed at an airport in London when he got off a plane. And they asked the good doctor, what was wrong with man today? He said he thought about it for a while. Then he said, man simply doesn't think. We do not think. You say, well, everybody thinks. No. Understand, mental activity does not constitute thinking. You have 5 senses. You can see, hear, smell, taste, touch. When any of those 5 senses are affected, it causes mental activity. That is not thinking. It causes pictures to fly in your mind. That is not thinking. If you heard a siren in the background right now, you might see a fire truck or an ambulance on the screen of your mind. That's not thinking. You have higher faculties. These higher faculties, most people know little about. Oh, they hear the word every now and then. You have perception, the will, reason, imagination, memory, intuition. These higher faculties are what literally separate us from all the rest of the animal kingdom. All the rest of the little animal kingdom, they're completely at home in their environment. They blend in. You and I are totally disoriented in our environment. We're totally disoriented. That is because we have been given the godlike ability to create our own environment.
Be an unshakable optimist. This is wonderful. In other words, always look for the good in every situation. We know that a positive mental attitude is a foundation of a healthy, happy life. A positive mental attitude, an attitude of absolute confidence and determination that you can and be and do whatever you want, it goes hand in hand with all great success. The work on positive attitude concludes this, that how you feel about yourself is based on 2 or 3 factors. First of all, it's the way you look at situations. If you look for the good in other situations and other people, you always find it. You always have a tendency to find what you do look for. If you look for the valuable lesson in every setback, and every single day you're going to have setbacks and obstacles and difficulties and disappointment and so on, just look for the valuable lesson. The most important of all is the work done at the University of Pennsylvania, which concludes that we are optimists to the degree to which we control our explanatory style. Explanatory style means the way we interpret things to ourselves. If you interpret things to yourself in a positive way, you're going to be positive. If you interpret them in a negative way, you're going to be negative. So superior people are consciously taking everything that happens to them and looking for a positive way to put a twist on it. Here's an example. My friend Wayne Dyer says, would you like to have a happy childhood? Because he says, it's never too late to have a happy childhood. You can have a happy childhood whenever you want. How do you do it? What you do is you turn around and you look back and you reinterpret the events that were so upsetting at the time as being events that were positive and that helpful, and they built your character, and they taught you what you didn't want and what you wanted more of. They gave you direction to change and so on. In other words, if you take the time and you have some fun, you can take any negative situation you've ever had and you can turn it around and you can find something good in it, and by so doing, you become a positive person. You take control of your thinking, you take control of your personality, and the more optimistic you become in the achievement of your goals, the more unstoppable you become. Can you imagine a negative person as unstoppable? Negative people are stopped cold every time they turn around. But optimistic people have this momentum that drives them over any obstacles that come along. So talk to yourself positively all the time. Say, I like myself. I feel terrific. I feel happy. I feel healthy. I feel wonderful. The more you talk to yourself in a positive way, the better you feel.
You see, energy functions on frequencies, and that's what you're made of. Your body is a mass of living energy. A frequency is a level of vibration. That's exactly what a frequency is. There is an infinite number of frequencies. Remember I said you can think, activate brain cells, and you send off a charge of energy. Now stay with me here. This is so important, yet it's so misunderstood. There's an infinite number of frequencies. Every one of those little purple lines represent a level of vibration. Now, do you know, Albert Einstein, God bless him, he sure had his act put together, didn't he? He said, everything is energy, and that's all there is to it. Match the frequency of the reality you want, and you cannot help but get that reality. It can be no other way. This is not philosophy. This is physics.